how do we solve this problem of delivering training in a way that's smooth and cohesive, and there's really not a great solution out there. So what we have set out to do with TeachBeacon is to make virtual training 100% more efficient. I know that's a bold claim, but we're going to show you how it's possible. And 15% more profitable, also a bold claim, but we're going to show you how it's possible in under 30 days without the headache of using multiple tools to get it done. So if you're like us and have felt this pain and have wondered if there's a better way to deliver training than having to cobble together a ton of different tools like Slack and Dropbox and an LMS and Zoom and whatever else, all of these kinds of things that are needed to deliver a virtual training. If you feel like there's a better way to do this, then there should be a better way. We found it was hard to find something, so we built it. We built it ourselves, and to eliminate the complexities inherent in the process. So we've mapped every step out into a workflow that is required for a typical training process. And Curtis will take you through that and how each of the individual tools play a part and how we've eliminated those.
Right, and this is a little bit small, so I'm going to bring over a blown up version here for us to look at. So like Ryan said, we've been in the training space for a while, and we understand what needs to go into a training to make it worthwhile and to make it beneficial for clients and for students and for teachers and for the organization that's running the training. So we sat down and we started to think through all the things that you need to do to get a training done, and how can we do all this with virtual training with all these tools, and bring it together cohesively so it's not so disjointed and difficult to get done. How do we make it more efficient? So I think this is important to understand, kind of shows you how we are thinking about this process. So we broke it into three areas. You have your pre-class activities that you do before a class runs. You have your activities you run during a class to actually deliver it. And then you have your post-class activities. Okay, and so if you look here at this pre-class activities, you have things like selecting which video platform is going to work. This is a challenge because if you're delivering to big companies, some like WebEx or some like Zoom or some like this or some like that, and you have to cater to whatever their tool of choice is, because some have security concerns or whatever it might be, like Zoom, for example. There's the class scheduling piece, and there's the teacher onboarding and teacher coordination piece. There's the sending of course requirements and documents piece. There's the syncing of all the student calendars and who's doing what, when are the deadlines, when are the classes, in a way that they can understand. You have distribution of all the class materials. You have administration of pre-class work. So maybe you want to do a survey, or maybe you want to do a little quiz to see, are the students ready for this course? Or maybe I need to adjust some of the things that I'm doing in this course to meet the needs of the students. All of that needs to be done before the class even starts. And even before that, there's maybe you want to run a promotional webinar, or you got to meet with the client beforehand and set up and actually sell the course. All of that happens before the course even runs. Okay, and then when we get through all of that, finally the course can run. And when the course runs, there's lots of different streams that you may be doing at any given time. Right here is the one that you may be the most familiar with, which is delivering live sessions. This would be like what a Zoom tool would do or something like this. And where you're actually speaking to people live and teaching them things. You're going to want things in that session like breakout rooms, whiteboarding, chat, polls, all these kinds of things that are conducive to the training experience. You'll want to split up that video maybe if the class is too large and you want several classes. You'll want reminders in there to say, hey, like send this to the students and tell them when the next session is happening. If people aren't attending, you want to be able to email them and remind them that the course is happening. Maybe you have several classes in a row, and if someone doesn't attend a certain number, you want to make sure they don't receive the more advanced content. So all of those things get really, really tricky when you're doing this with a lot of tools. So that's sort of the live stream. You also have this stream, which is more on demand. So this is what a typical LMS would do, where you say, Okay, maybe we do a live session one day, and the next day we want students to watch a pre-recorded video. We want them to take some quizzes and tests or upload assignments. All of this can be done without a teacher. But again, that's another piece of virtual training that's usually disjointed. Okay, and then you have another piece with the one-on-one coaching. Maybe certain students need additional help, or maybe they need one-on-one assistance with some problems that they can't figure out, or maybe you want to be able to upsell the ability to give one-on-one support. That's another whole tool set. And then you have collaboration. A lot of people we've talked to are trying to use Slack, for example, to get everyone together and collaborate with messages back and forth and files and this kind of thing. But then they also have Zoom and they also have this and that. So that becomes a challenge. But you want to be able to collaborate as well. And then the reporting is a total mess, because all the data now is in 7 different systems. And how do you report on who attended what class and what their grades were and all these kinds of things? That becomes very difficult. So part of this process then is bringing all of that together so that you can then report on it and deliver a good experience. And then you're not done. After that, then comes the end of the course, but then you want your end of course evaluations to make sure the students were happy with the course or get feedback. You need course certificates and deliver those. You need to, again, deliver reporting on the entire experience at the end, so we know it was good and how everybody did. A good idea is to have some long-term follow-up. We know people forget things quickly, and so without a 3-month follow-up or a 6-month follow-up or maybe a little micro follow-ups along the way, a lot of that education that they received is going to be lost. And so that's another important piece, which again usually involves a separate tool. And then comes the thing that's important to your business, which is selling more courses. Maybe there's some cross sells or some upsells we could do with those students. That's usually a disjointed process, and that brings us all the way back up to the top, where you have to repeat the whole thing over again. So we have some slides here that just kind of briefly show all these hidden complexities, which we just talked about, right? So you have a tool that does your webinars, and you have email and staff that you probably pay to do a lot of this pre-class work. And then you have Zoom to do that. And then an LMS does the on-demand stuff. And then you have coaching software to do the one-on-one coaching. And then you have Slack to do the collaboration. You pay an analyst or someone on your team to cobble the reports together. You have specialized software that maybe does some of the follow-ups and micro engagements after the course. Evals are usually administered over Google Forms or done manually by paper. And then you have a salesperson usually, or yourself, that has to figure out what to sell next and set up those meetings and do all of that. And so by the time you get all of those tools together, you're paying for a lot of subscriptions, data's all over the place, and it's usually really, really hard to keep everything square and get it all done. Or it's so hard that you're not doing all of the pieces in this flow, which means either the students aren't getting the best experience that they can for learning, the teacher doesn't have the tools and the experience that they need to get this done, and then the administrators and the organizations who are buying also have a subpar experience. So to get all of this done with a lot of tools is very, very difficult. So what we want to do, what we thought is, well, what we need is the ability to integrate all of these activities together so that we have something that's cohesive and that's easy and that's frictionless.